Okay, everybody. Trump is obviously evil. He is obviously the worst choice out of Joe Biden and him. But I feel it's important to continue to hammer that home because for some reason, I continue to see on the daily, several times a day, my brain, my eyes, my ears, all my senses are assaulted by having to witness lefties online unironically argue Joe Biden and Trump are effectively no different from each other insofar as, their potential good or bad they could do as candidates once elected. This is obviously insane, and it's not just because Trump is so bad. As I've made a very strong effort to prove with very thorough and up-to-date coverage of Biden's political moves and executive order signings and all bill passing, all that kind of stuff. Staying on top of all Biden's activities, I've made it very clear that Biden is actually quite good, very good, in fact, domestically at least. I'd say his foreign policy, while certainly far from being the worst of any American president, could definitely be better. But yeah, I mean, Biden is actually quite good. People refusing to vote for Biden so vehemently has me a little scared. It's hard to say how many of these people are even the types that go out and vote at all in the first place, to be fair. Like, if Bernie was the presumptive nominee, would they be willing to vote? Would they really vote when the general came around if Bernie was the, primary winner? I honestly don't know. I don't know how many of them would bother. So many of them are the types of people, I feel like they're the same types of people who feel about electoral politics, how a lot of people feel about liking a YouTube video, you know? Like, you'll watch a YouTube video from a YouTuber, and let's say it has 1,000 views. And all 1,000 people who watched it probably enjoyed the video, right? Like, they watched 10 minutes of it or something like that, but the video only have 200 likes. And they'll hear a call to action to hit the like button, but they won't do it. Oftentimes, and at least in my case, when I used to not hit the like button on videos when I was younger, it was because I always just thought my like isn't going to add that much, you know? So everyone else is going to like the video, or a bunch of other people are going to like the video. My like doesn't count. But if you look at that video, roughly 80% of the viewers, in many cases, have that same thought process. And that mindset doesn't just apply to internet engagement and viewership and understanding the algorithm. It applies to how people think about voting. When something requires the overwhelming contribution, a small contribution from a bunch of individuals, sometimes singular individuals start to think that it doesn't apply to them, that there's such a small piece of the puzzle that as they don't need to hold up their end because so many other people are out there to hold up their end. But meanwhile, there are countless other people out there thinking the same thing. And that's why voting rates are so low. It's not just that, I think most of the country does vote, but not by a lot. A surprising amount of Americans don't vote. Especially back in 2016 and 2020. 2020 had surprisingly high turnout, but 2016 especially had really bad, shameful turnout. And a surprising amount of Americans will just check out of voting, even on the president. And so that kind of, little worrying for sure. And I wonder if that's how those people are. They're just kind of justifying what they weren't, they're justifying not doing something that they were already not going to do just out of laziness, but now they're trying to ascribe a moral good to it. I think that's a pretty good possibility. Anyway, I think it's important to also hammer home, obviously, how god-awful Trump is. Because while Biden is doing things like shutting down plans for big mining roads and oil pipelines through thousands of acres of land in Alaska, and expanding green energy permits more than any president ever has ever before him, Donald Trump is promising to axe climate policies. Well, here, I'll just read the headline. Quid pro quo. Trump vowed to gut climate change laws in exchange for $1 billion from oil bosses. $1 billion. $1 billion from oil bosses. For those that don't know, Donald Trump's been really hard up for money lately, And so Donald Trump's current strategy is just to openly and shamelessly take $1 billion from the oil lobby in exchange for promising that if he gets reelected, he will annihilate environmental regulations holding the oil industry back from destroying our planet. 1 billion is literally what he needs. Yeah, no, this is what he's going to use to pay off all of his legal shit. So Donald Trump's probably in the clear. And on top of that, the Supreme Court will no doubt decide that he is completely immune to any form of like legal action against him, because the crimes he's committed, he did while president, and they are trying to argue the president can't be tried or charged for any crimes unless he's impeached by the House and Senate first. So Donald Trump may not only have all of his legal stuff paid off and be able to pay for his campaign, but on top of that, the Supreme Court, which he put into power, of course, the majority of them, the Supreme Court very well may give him a get-out-of-jail-free card and full immunity from any future crimes. So it's very possible that this move is what gives Donald Trump his saving grace. Like, he might just totally be, like, home free now. Like, plenty of money to run now. Like, all those legal cases might have just not been a problem for him anymore. His tax stuff, I think he can pay off now with the one... Yeah, I think he's set. Cringe as fuck. It's so fucking cringe, but it's the reality from what I can tell. Like, the oil lobby is covering him.
Donald Trump summoned a who's who of top lobbyists and executives from the oil and gas industry to the upscale La Quinta/bribery palace he calls Mar-a-Lago, and proceeded to solicit $1 billion from the fossil fuel companies to get him elected, as multiple outlets have now reported. In exchange, the Washington...
Trump is being investigated for this. Doesn't matter. The Supreme Court is currently looking to decide that he cannot be tried for anything. Granted, he's not president now, so maybe he could be tried for this if it's a crime, but they're trying to argue that anything he did that's illegal while president can't be charged because the president should be immune to, like, from crime. It's literally just they are arguing for fascism and dictatorship. They want no consequences whatsoever for a president that isn't a Democrat.
Washington Post reports, quote, he vowed to immediately reverse dozens of President Biden's environmental rules and policies and stop new ones from being enacted. New York Times.
The sad thing is, while many lefties don't know that Trump is vowing to axe these climate policies, even more lefties don't even know that Biden passed these climate policies in the first place. So if Trump does get reelected and he starts axing these climate policies and that ends up being like big news in the headlines, you better believe the people who didn't vote for Biden and are going to go straight to talking about how bad Trump is and talking about how awful it is that America's plunging into fascism, as if they did anything to try and stop it, other than tweet. They will like instantly start. They won't even acknowledge the fact that Biden passed those laws when they say how bad it is that Trump is pulling them back if Trump gets reelected. They'll immediately go from shitting on Biden to shitting on Trump because it's what they want. A lot of the content creators, at least, and like the Twitter posters and the clout demons, they want Trump reelected so all their numbers can go up. He thinks you need to read more of the Palmer Report, Zan? Here, I'll bookmark it really fast so I can read it. Alrighty. It's bookmarked. Hopefully that's a good read.
Times says, quote, Trump told the group that they should donate $1 billion to his presidential campaign because if elected, he would roll back environmental rules that he said hamper their industry. He told executives the amount of money they would save in taxes and legal expenses after he repealed regulations would more than cover $1 billion contribution. Now, to be clear, this is not prosecutable under current law, particularly in the way that the Supreme Court has come to define bribery.
Okay, so it's not even illegal. I mean, it should be. But I didn't think it was, because this is basically what politics in America is built on, is companies, corporations, and special interest groups lobbying politicians to do what they want in exchange for money for their campaign and their pockets.
Bribery is a crime which is extremely attenuated these days, but in common parlance, it is a political quid pro quo, one that is so shocking that while we don't know the sources of these articles,
Trump owes $100 million in taxes. He didn't pay. Yeah, but that's only 10% of what these oil barons are about to give him.
Sure looks like Trump's offer managed to stun even a bunch of oil executives, who are used to the most craven parts of big money in politics as anyone in the entire country. Lisa Friedman is an author of that article for the New York Times, where she covers climate policy and politics, and she joins me now. Lisa, great to have you. Will you just...
There's no way they don't give him the money. Like, it's the oil lobby and the Republican who has outright brought them to his palace to promise them that they will be allowed to decimate the planet with the president's approval if they, like, give him money for his legal stuff, his tax stuff, and his reelection. Even if the Supreme Court gives him immunity, it will only immune him when he was president and not the other case, pre-presidency Trump. Yeah, I guess he'd still be on the line for, like, paying people off pre-presidency. He'd be on the line for the E. Jean Carroll stuff. He'd still be on the line for tax stuff, I guess. It's just, when you're that powerful and rich, if you can throw enough money at the problem, there's not many things you can't get away with, it seems, right? Like, when you're Donald Trump, especially, if you have enough money to throw at a legal issue, you're going to be fine. Like, it's how our legal system is designed. If you can throw enough money at the problem, there's only so much bad that can come out of it. Like, you literally have to be a terrorist for it to, like, for money to no longer help you. Like, I don't know.
Describe to me the setting, the conditions under which this event happened, what the folks who were invited were told.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So last month, around April 11th, a number of executives and lobbyists for oil and gas companies arrived at Mar-a-Lago for what was described as an energy roundtable. They dined on chopped steak, we were told, by people in the room. And former President Donald Trump promised to unravel President Biden's climate change agenda. Top on the list, we were told, were...
It really does just kind of, like, it's hard to not feel a physical, like, reaction just thinking about the fact that those that are, like, super powerful in destroying this planet and our future on it are also those living the most luxurious lives a human can possibly live. Like, the worst people on Earth are living the best lives that you could imagine. And it's just, that is the reality we live in. And that fucking blows, I'm not gonna lie. Doesn't make me very happy. Doesn't make me very happy.
Regulations that were put in place recently encouraging electric vehicle deployment. Wind energy was a target, and of course
Yeah, on top of that, like, with all this money, they still put ketchup on a well-done steak. They order a well-done steak with their massive, like, wealth, and then they put ketchup on it.
Temporary ban that the Biden administration imposed on permitting new liquefied natural gas terminals. The president, the former president, then told the crowd that we were told that they should want to raise $1 billion for him because this was going to help their industries, and the money that they would save in taxes and legal fees fighting regulations would be dwarfed.
So there's sort of two pieces of context here. One is that Citizens United, before Citizens United, this wouldn't even really be a plausible ask, right? I mean, if you're trying to raise $1 billion in hard money, campaign limited $2,600 bites.
This is why it's so important to have overwhelming government, like, oversight when it comes to our markets, companies, the economy, everything. These corporations don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about our country. They don't give a fuck about its people. They don't give a fuck about their employees. They only care about their bottom line. The shareholders and the top of the totem pole are the ones that are in charge of everything, and they are solely focused on ensuring that their bottom line is as high as possible. It's why they constantly engage in behavior that we call corpo bullshit, things like mass layoffs when they're completely unnecessary, or hell, during years where the company's CEO has gotten a record-breakingly high pay, like salary. Like, for example, Activision Blizzard, when it was doing massive layoffs like twice a year. Meanwhile, Bobby Kotick was getting the highest salary of any CEO in any industry ever, I believe. Like, I think Bobby Kotick was the world's most overpaid CEO, unironically. Like, that is an actual stat, and Bobby Kotick held it. This kind of shit is why there needs to be strong government oversight. Because the government, at the very least, has to pretend to care about you. The government are in charge of passing bills and allocating funds to programs that pay and that are just meant to make your life better. Everything from infrastructure that you use to get to work and get food and do like recreation and have fun, to medical programs. Pretty much this is exclusively Democrats, by the way. Medical programs that are designed to ensure that if you have a disaster or an emergency, you're not going to have your life ruined, or be denied treatment because you can't afford it, or be left in horrible debt because like they don't deny it but you accept it and you can't afford it. It's just there's the idea that any company gives a fuck about you enough that you should be able to trust them without the government acting as a counterbalance is insane. And that's what conservatives argue for. They argue that when the government has any form of oversight over these industries, that is socialism. That is, of course, not socialism. It is, by definition, capitalism. But regardless, they have money. They're motivated by money. Most conservative figures, at the end of the day, are solely working to enhance their own wealth. They may have some shitty, awful opinions that are just super bigoted and awful on the side, but most of it's just posturing and virtue signaling in a culture war to people that actually care about that stuff and don't have any money. None of the people supporting Tim Pool have as much money as Tim Pool. Tim Pool doesn't give a fuck about the stuff he's talking about. He just cares about getting another skate park. By the way, he has 2 skate parks now, one in the basement, one above ground as well as compound. These people have unimaginable amounts of money. Their fans don't care, or many of them don't even know how much money their faves are making. But for those content creators, it's all a grift. It really is all a grift. And it's all like, it's money in politics is what it is. It's what's happening here. It's what's happening on YouTube with like right-wing grift content creators. These people are motivated by money. And all the racist like right-wing shit that we see being touted about, the memes, the racism, the transphobia, the homophobia, that is all culture war nonsense weaponized to convince the dumb internet idiots to jump on board with full-on conservative ideology and support something that will make these figures more money.
It's not going to happen. It is in the environment we live in now where the ask, if audacious, is plausible in the sense that, the American Petroleum Institute could get $1 billion channeled into something that some super PAC, right?
Certainly. I would note that the way it was relayed to us was less of a, you do this for me, I'll do this for you, and more of a, you in the room should want to raise $1 billion for this campaign because Trump 2 will be ready on day one to unwrap.
Meanwhile, Biden had the largest grassroots-funded campaign event of all time in American history, while Donald Trump raised less money, but almost that much, by bringing a bunch of oil executives into his palace and promising them that he'll favor them with his policies if he's elected and if they give him money. Insane.
Travel, the regulations and policies that are hurting your businesses.
Now, one of the other interesting bits of context here is that obviously the people in that room, I think, are opposed to the Biden climate agenda on green energy, and also opposed to those regulatory stances you took, no new permitting on exporting liquefied natural gas, a pause on permits to the Gulf of Mexico, taking Alaska offline, et cetera, right? Exactly. But if I'm not mistaken, we're pumping more oil and gas than any country in history ever. And
we're exporting more than any country in history ever. Reminder, by the way, we are not consuming more oil than we are producing. Biden opened up more permits for domestic oil drilling than any president before, and more permits for green energy than any president before. And the domestic oil drilling that we have done has been in such a way that is far less environmentally destructive than like fracking, for example, or like the pipelines that are trying to be built up in like the Alaskan wilderness and stuff. And so on one hand, and on top of that, Biden is basically axing the coal industry, which makes up like what, 20% of our power production and 80% of greenhouse gas output from America. Simply Biden's coal plan going through, which Trump wants to cancel, will decrease America's fossil fuel consumption, or not fossil fuel consumption, greenhouse gas output by 80%. Just getting rid of coal. That's 20% of our energy production that we need to supplement, which is fine. By 2032, if we can supplement 20% of our energy production with eco, like good, ecological energy production, geothermal, wind, hydro, whatever it's got to be, solar, then we will eliminate 80% of our greenhouse gas output. We need to go negative, obviously. We need to literally be taking greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere in order to like get to a good place. Like we actually need to go carbon negative, like no carbon output, and we're taking it out of the atmosphere. That's ideal, but we're on a very good road. We're on a very good road, assuming Trump doesn't, take a jackhammer to it.
And they're making record profits, right?
It's incongruous, isn't it? You're absolutely right. The Biden administration is.
It's always funny how these companies do the most horrific shit to increase their bottom line when they're having record profits too. It's rarely ever, you rarely see like, this company did this horrible massive layoff. Yeah, but at the same time, they did have like a 70% decrease in sales and income that year. I guess it makes sense. But then later on, but that never happens. It always ends up being the case that it's like, yes, their CEO made more money than ever this year. They had more sales and profit than ever this year, and they axed 40% of their workforce. They will be replaced with AI, and their next project is going to suck shit because all the art will be AI art, like that kind of thing.
Overseeing record oil and gas production. He is getting no credit for that from the oil and gas industry. And he also, and the administration also has been pretty quiet about that fact.
Yes.
You have to mention also, they're not eager to tout that. They're very worried that environmental groups, especially young people, remain concerned about a number of green lights that the administration offered, last year, particularly on Willow, a major oil development in Alaska. There's a lot of lingering anger over that, especially with young people. And so we're finding the administration is not.
Yeah, it really does suck how much, like, if America descends into fascism, it might actually end up being the fault of young progressive people. Like, right now, the Democratic Party, and for, like, the last couple years, the Democratic Party has been in this situation where it's like, these young people are going to destroy our party. These Zoomers aren't just, like, so radical that they aren't enough people that they can, influence the election, like a primary election, in favor of, say, like, Bernie Sanders, right? But they are enough people that their influence is like a constant drag on the Democrats. Probably not, Zan. No. Have you seen how much, of the coverage we've done from both, like, mainstream left-wing outlets and coverage of, like, the Biden team's strategy has been talking about trying to, like, get young progressive people to not be deluded about Biden? Like, Biden does one thing that someone like Hassan twists into, like, neoliberal pandering to the right or something, and no credit is given to Biden. Then maybe they should try to secure that vote. That's what they are trying to do. The problem with that is, Ethan Wood, is that these young people don't read the news. They don't read the White House's website. They watch YouTubers and streamers, and they're not watching me. They're watching Hassan. They're watching, like, Frogan or Denims or fucking, like, Mike from PA or one of those, like, dumb fucks that just spews nonsense. The left-wing equivalent of right-wing, drivel, right? Heavily tilted on America always bad. The Democrats and Republicans are just as bad as each other. Doomer about the state of politics at all times. And we must always live in the aesthetic of being anti-America, anti-American government. And no matter who's in charge, they're bad. We refuse to cover any good that Biden does. Yeah, Lance from the Surfs, I guess. If he's on that side, I didn't know he was. Sounds right. I'm sorry you got muted, Zero. Sorry about that.
Isn't out there telling people that they're doing a lot of development.
Totally. But the people who do know it, I would suspect, are the people in that room.
And they give him no credit.
Lance is on that side, but he's Canadian. Am I the only left-wing content creator that's not grifting his ass off? What the fuck is going on right now? Like, I get that, like, all our numbers dropped astronomically. Like, literally all our numbers dropped astronomically when Biden took office. And times have been tough the last few years because, everything's lesser. All growth is slowed. Numbers dropped across the board, monetary, everything. But, like, are so many people truly so desperate for a return to, like, the good times when everybody was, like, flooding to lefty channels to hear about what crazy thing Trump did today as president? Like, are they so hungry for those good times and for that cash that they're willing to, like, push the idea that Trump is not that bad? I mean, there is Vosh, and he's legit. Yeah, Vosh is always going to be pretty good about the vote blue no matter who thing. I think Shark's probably good on this too. But and I don't know what Demon Mama's position is, but I think Vosh and Demon Mama possibly are not exactly, like, don't vote on this issue, but I have seen that their discussions of Biden have rarely been positive. Like, I have yet... maybe I'm wrong because I haven't seen Demon Mama's coverage of Biden stuff, but from what I've seen of Vosh's coverage of Biden stuff, it's been a lot of negativity. Like, even covering the positive stuff is, like, in this weirdly passive-aggressive way. Demon Mama is against Biden. She has a short on her views of Biden. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I think Demon Mama is anti-Biden, yeah. So, like, yeah, it just seems like everybody's either, like, literally no tolerance on the Israel-Palestine thing. Like, it doesn't matter, like, how good the president is. If they support Israel, they will not support them no matter what. A lot of lefties are either there or just outright, like, don't vote Biden because I want money. Money me. Cyrus has been positive on Biden? Yeah, Cyrus is goated.
They probably know that they're pumping more oil and gas.
It's so weird. I never think of Cyrus as a YouTuber. I think of Cyrus as one of my buddies. Because, like, me and Cyrus have played so much WoW together. Like, me and Cyrus became friends, like, back in 2019. And then we've played a lot of classic WoW. Like, we've done those, like, degenerate up until the sun comes up, going to bed at, like, 2 p.m., like, Scarlet Monastery run type shit. So, like, Cyrus is my buddy, and I'm always like, oh, yeah, Cyrus is also a YouTuber. But I always think, like, oh, yeah, my buddy Cyrus first.
And
Surely.
doing pretty well, right? I mean, I think they know that. But they're still very angry at him, is my sense, from people I've talked to inside the energy world in the U.S.
I've talked to executives with some major oil and gas companies who are very much in favor of the Inflation Reduction Act, the landmark climate law that has pumped $370 some odd billion into.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that, Avalon of Babylon. Yeah, I did. I've been neglecting my social interactions with other content creators so much the last, like, maybe 6 months, I'd say. Like, when it comes to content creators and people online that aren't, like, in my friend group, I've kind of, like, outside of watch parties, neglected a lot of those social interactions because I've got so much shit happening lately. For one, like the Keffels shit really soured me on a lot of things because so many people sided with Keffels during all of that. Like even some content creators that I was friends with. And even after everything's come out about her like evaporating the 100K from the GoFundMe and there being absolutely nothing done for her promised legal action, I've yet to get a single apology from any of those people who were not just like unsupportive of me, but downright like in the behind the scenes, like telling me to shut the fuck up and keep my mouth shut. No, and like be nice to Keffels. I've yet to get like any apology for that, and so it's kind of soured me on a lot of interactions. Cyrus was not one of those people, but just had me like not talking to people online as much. Hey, it's okay, man. I just need to communicate that with people. They're a lot more understanding if they know what's going on. Yeah. I'm also not great at typing, so I don't enjoy it, and DMing people is never fun. I just like to do calls. I need to make like a Discord server that I invite all my friends to, and it's just, hey, you want to talk to me? Hop in VC. I'm there usually, you know.
Renewable energy, also carbon capture and storage, something something the fossil fuel industry is eager for. Also direct air capture, also hydrogen.
Yes.
At the same time, when President Biden made the decision to pause LNG exports, it really touched off a nerve within the oil and gas community that was already angry and frustrated over decisions like curtailing drilling in the Gulf of Mexico and other places. This has really struck a nerve, and there has been certainly no credit given to the administration for the record output of oil and gas that we're seeing right now. The argument from the oil industry is that is because of policies that preceded the Biden administration.
Yes. Well, they're gentle souls, and they get very upset when things don't go their way, and so maybe they'll come up with a bill.
Yeah, I do. I honestly used to feel so condescended to when I was younger, like when I was like 19, 20, and I'd see like mainstream outlets talk about like young, like radical progressive college student, like lefties, and they talk about them like this. I'd be like, so condescending. No wonder they don't. And now I'm older, and I know what like is going on in politics to the same, if not similar degree to these like people in suits whose job is to just report on it all fucking day, and they've got teams of people supplying them with direct sources on every new thing happening in politics. So it kind of, now that I know what they know, and I know how good Biden's been and how different the Republicans and Democrats are, like on such a fundamental level, down to the individual, like wake up in the morning, here's the policy that's passed today. Like, they're so fundamentally different, so stark, so night and day, that seeing like a bunch of young people absolutely throw themselves into the meat grinder effectively of essentially volunteering for a Trump presidency when they clearly don't even have the knowledge to recognize how bad of a choice they're making, it's hard not to look at them with a little bit of scorn, but mostly with a little like condescension. Like, yeah, you're dumb kids that don't know what you're talking about. If you genuinely think that Biden is so bad that you're not going to vote for Trump and you claim to be these like hyper-progressive, anti-fascist, like super progressive young people, that you're just being dumb, stupid kids. You're going to grow up and you're going to realize how dumb you are eventually. And I kind of get that. I totally get that kind of perspective now that I frankly think that today me, in terms of political knowledge, trounces 19 to 20-year-old like me so many times over, it's not even funny. Like I own myself from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, especially. Easy. $1
billion for the guy who's promising the agenda of their dreams. Lisa Friedman, thank you very much.
Yeah, dude, it really sucks that like Biden has been like unprecedentedly good about climate policy, and meanwhile young progressives are like, we think Biden has been really lackluster on climate policy. It's like, dog, by 2032, if Biden's climate policy on coal alone is not interrupted, we'll have eliminated 80% of our carbon footprint per year. It's like I can't take it. I can't take it. These damn kids got to get off my fucking lawn. Get them off my lawn! Fucking hell. Vote for Biden. He's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm not even joking, by the way. 80%, yeah. The coal industry provides 20% of America's power and produces 80% of its carbon footprint. It is that inefficient and that bullshit. And it is literally like Virginia and those like mountainous ass coal mining states and all the people there that are like, oh, we love the coal industry. All our jobs are coal, that are absolutely refuse to switch over to green energy. When Republicans love coal because like a big part of the Republican stronghold, like the red stronghold states, are those coal states like Virginia, where they go there and they go to like coal mines. Like Trump will go to a coal mine where he will be standing in front of a crowd of coal miners telling them how much he loves coal, and as long as he's president, coal isn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, it produces a pithy amount of our power and is what is destroying our environment by like magnitudes more than even oil. Like oil is not even close to as bad as coal. West Virginia, not Virginia. Yeah, sorry, West Virginia. My bad. The best Virginia. I'm not gonna lie, Virginia is, like, very meh. West Virginia, though, is fucking gorgeous. As much of an awful state West Virginia is politically, like, as far as geographically, oh my god. I've only been there once, I believe, and it was when I was very young with my grandma on a road trip, and the mountains there were these, like, huge, domed, tall mountains that were covered in green. Trees all over them. It was very like foggy and cloudy and wet and mountainous. And so it was like almost like a mountainous jungle. That's at least how I remember it. I was like maybe 8, but very pretty. Regardless, though, those goddamn West Virginian coal miners are destroying our planet. They need to learn how to work a solar panel, or they're losing their jobs. We're coming for your jobs, coal miners. We're gonna get them. I'm sorry. You like 10,000 people, like these 10,000 jobs or whatever that are made up by coal miners. Your jobs are not more important than the survival of humanity. I hate to inform you. I know it's my hot take. It's my hot take. The, 10,000 people employed by the coal industry? Like, I don't know. It's probably way more than that, but it's literally nowhere near as much as many other industries. It's a very small amount of people that are virtue signaled for by the right when they talk about coal miners and stuff. But regardless. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting down below, because both those things both make me happy. It fills me up with like that warm, fuzzy feeling. I get to read your comments. I get to see you guys liked the video and you enjoy it, and I get to see your support. But on top of that, it boosts my channel in the algorithm. You guys liking and commenting tells YouTube that not only did you watch the video, but you liked it enough to actually engage with it, and that's what they're looking for. And of course, if you want to see more from me, consider subbing and ring the bell icon so YouTube tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And if you want to see even more of me, you can follow my social medias, linked down below in the description. And if you want to support me directly, financially, you can afford to do so, and you feel like it, of course, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying some merch to the Streamlabs link down below, streamlabs.com/xanderhall/merch. Or, if you haven't already, make sure you know that my fan Discord is down below in the description. It's totally free to join. It is the main hub of my fan base. And on top of that, I do watch parties, call-in streams, I host game nights, and we do announcements for all my uploads and streams there, so you won't miss anything. It's the main hub of my community. I hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed.